The desperate call, the crystalline spires of Zephyr Prime, gleamed like jewels against the purple sky as Ambassador Kaya Velthera rushed through the corridors of the planetary council chamber. Her pale blue skin glistened with perspiration, and her large silver eyes reflected the emergency lights that bathed the building in urgent amber tones. Through the transparent walls, she could see the massive forms of Vorthon war machines descending through the atmosphere like metallic meteors, their energy weapons already beginning to carve through the outer settlements. Kaya's webbed fingers trembled as she accessed the emergency communication array. The Zephorian Confederation had enjoyed 3,000 years of peace. Their advanced technology focused on art, philosophy, and the gentle manipulation of their world's unique energy fields. They had never needed weapons more sophisticated than basic defensive barriers. But the Vorthon collective cared nothing for their peaceful nature or their beautiful cities that floated gracefully above the cloud layers. The Vorthons were different from any species the Zephyrians had encountered. They appeared to be a fusion of organic and mechanical components, their bodies encased in dark metal exoskeletons that adapted to any defensive measure the Zephyrians employed. When energy shields were raised, the Vorthons modified their weapons. When the Zephorians attempted to flee, the Vorthons anticipated their escape routes with cold, mathematical precision. Elder Council member Vexvan appeared on the communication screen, his ancient face marked by centuries of wisdom and now, for the first time in his long life, genuine terror. The outer colonies have fallen, Kaya, he reported, his melodious voice strained with exhaustion. The Vorthon adaptive shields have made our defensive systems useless. They consume our technology and use it against us. We estimate perhaps 6 hours before they reach the capital. Kaya closed her eyes and felt the weight of 40 billion Zephyrian lives pressing upon her consciousness. Their species had always believed that intelligence and compassion were the highest virtues in the universe. They had never imagined that somewhere in the cold depths of space there existed beings who viewed such qualities as weaknesses to be exploited. There must be someone, she whispered to herself, her fingers dancing across the quantum communication array. Someone out there who will answer. Someone who has the strength we lack. The emergency beacon began broadcasting across every known frequency, carrying a message that had been carefully crafted by their greatest linguists and mathematicians. It spoke in the universal language of mathematics and physics, patterns that any intelligent species should be able to decode. The message was simple, desperate, and heartbreaking in its honesty. We are dying. Our people face extinction. If anyone can hear this, please help us. We offer everything we have in return for our lives. 40-7 light-years away. Commander Sarah Chen was reviewing stellar cartography reports in the Deep Space Monitoring Station Titan when every alarm in the facility began screaming simultaneously. The station, hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Pluto's orbit, served as humanity's early warning system against potential alien contact. For 30 years, it had monitored the cosmos in silence, finding nothing but empty space and distant stars. Sarah, a veteran of Earth's colonial expansion program, had been chosen to lead Titan Station specifically because of her combination of scientific expertise and military training. She had spent her youth studying the theoretical possibilities of alien contact, never truly believing she would witness it firsthand. Now, as the monitoring equipment registered signals from deep space, she felt her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from his sensor station, his face pale with shock. "Commander," You need to see this. The signal is massive, broadcasting on every frequency we monitor. It's not random cosmic noise. It's structured, intelligent, and it's coming from the Kepler 442 system. Sarah moved to the main display, where complex mathematical patterns filled the screen, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. The station's quantum computers were working furiously to decode the alien mathematics, translating the abstract concepts into human language. As the message became clear, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "This is a distress signal," she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the humming of the processing equipment. "They're under attack. Someone out there is dying, and they're begging for help." The implications struck her immediately. This was not the peaceful first contact scenario that humanity had spent decades preparing for. This was a civilization in its death throes, reaching out across the void for a salvation that might never come. And somehow, Earth had become their only hope. Within minutes, Sarah had established a priority communication link with Earth Defense Command. The face of Admiral Marcus Kane appeared on the secure channel, his weathered features reflecting the experience of someone who had spent his entire career preparing for scenarios that most people believed would never occur. Kane had been a young officer during the Martian Independence War, and later commanded the fleets that established Earth's first interstellar colonies. If anyone could handle humanity's first alien contact, it was him. "Admiral, we've detected what appears to be an alien distress signal from the Kepler 442 system," Sarah reported, transmitting the decoded message. "They claim to be under attack by an unknown hostile force." The emotional content of the signal suggests genuine desperation. Kane studied the data for several long moments, his tactical mind already analyzing the implications. "Distance to target system is 47 light-years. Our fastest ships could reach them in approximately 60 hours, using maximum hyperspace velocity." Sarah could see the conflict in Kane's eyes. Earth's policy had always been caution when it came to potential alien contact. But this situation demanded immediate action. "There's another consideration," Admiral Sarah continued. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy discharges from that region of space. Someone is definitely fighting a war out there, and based on the intensity of the signals, it's not going well for the people sending this distress call." Kane leaned back in his command chair, studying the strategic implications. For decades, Earth had been building its interstellar defense capabilities in secret, preparing for the day when hostile aliens might discover humanity's location. Their ships were designed by a species that had evolved as persistence hunters. On a high-gravity death world, vessels built for speed, endurance, and devastating firepower. But they had always assumed they would be defending Earth, not projecting military power across dozens of light-years to help complete strangers. "Commander Chen," Kane said finally, "I'm authorizing the deployment of Task Force Prometheus. You'll take command of our fastest response fleet, 12 heavy destroyers and 4 battle cruisers. Your mission parameters are humanitarian assistance and reconnaissance. Do not engage hostile forces unless directly threatened, and under no circumstances reveal Earth's location." Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline as she realized she was about to command humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. "Understood, Admiral. What about the main fleet?" Kane's expression grew grim. "I'll be following with everything we have, Commander. If we're going to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy, we're going to make sure we have enough firepower to back up our intentions." As the connection ended, Sarah found herself staring at the alien distress signal still playing across her screens. In 6 hours, she would be leading 16 of Earth's most advanced warships into unknown space to answer a cry for help from beings she had never seen. The rational part of her mind whispered warnings about traps, about hostile aliens using false distress calls to lure unsuspecting species into ambushes. But the emotional content of the signal was too genuine to fake. Somewhere out there, intelligent beings were watching their civilization die while hoping that someone, anyone, would care enough to help them. And for the first time in human history, someone had answered. Task Force Prometheus began launching from the hidden shipyards orbiting Jupiter within 3 hours of receiving the distress call. The human vessels moved through space with predatory grace, their hulls designed to absorb sensor energy rather than reflect it. Unlike the elegant, artistic ships that more peaceful species might construct, human vessels looked like what they were: weapons built by apex predators who had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. As Sarah watched her fleet form up for the hyperspace jump, she couldn't help but wonder what these aliens would think when they saw humanity's response to their plea for help. Would they be grateful for the assistance? Or would they be terrified when they realized that the beings answering their distress call were armed with weapons that could crack planets? There was only one way to find out. The hyperspace engines engaged with a sound like thunder, and Task Force Prometheus disappeared into the swirling energy of higher dimensional space, racing toward a distant system where aliens were dying while hoping that someone would care enough to save them. Back on Zephyr Prime, Kaya Velthera watched through the command center's observation windows as another of their beautiful floating cities crashed into the surface below, its energy generators overwhelmed by Vorthan assault. The mechanical invaders moved with terrifying efficiency, their adaptive systems learning and countering every defensive measure the Zephyrians attempted. Then, impossibly, her communication array chimed with an incoming transmission. For a moment, Kaya stared at the signal in disbelief. After hours of broadcasting into empty space, someone had actually responded. The message was simple, transmitted using the same mathematical protocols she had employed. But the words made her hands shake with something other than fear. For the first time since the invasion began, message received and understood. Help is coming. Hold on. Outside, the Vorthon war machines continued their methodical destruction of everything the Zephyrians had built over millennia. But for the first time since the nightmare began, Kaya allowed herself to hope. Someone had heard their cry for help. Someone was coming. She just prayed they would arrive in time, and that whoever they were, they possessed the strength that her people lacked. When Predators answered the call, the hyperspace emergence of Task Force Prometheus at the edge of the Kepler 442 system sent shockwaves through local spacetime that every sensor array within 50 million kilometers detected simultaneously. Commander Sarah Chen watched the tactical display populate with data as her fleets advanced. Sensors began cataloging the ongoing battle, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The Zephyrian home system was a masterpiece of elegant engineering. Massive cities floated in the upper atmospheres of gas giants, connected by streams of pure energy that arced between worlds like silver bridges. Crystalline habitats orbited the system's star, their faceted surfaces creating rainbow prisms that painted space in brilliant colors. It should have been one of the most beautiful sights in the galaxy. Instead, it was dying. The Vorthan fleet stretched across space like a metallic plague. Hundreds of dark vessels systematically dismantling the Zephyrian civilization with surgical precision. Sarah watched in horrified fascination as Vorthan ships approached the floating cities, extended mechanical appendages to drain their energy sources, and then discarded the lifeless husks like empty shells. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. From the sensor station, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Commander, I'm reading approximately 400 Vorthon vessels in system. They appear to be some kind of cybernetic species, part organic, part machine. Their ships are adaptive, changing configuration based on whatever defensive measures. They encountered. Sarah studied the enemy fleet through the enhanced optics of her flagship. The Vorthan vessels were unlike anything in Earth's xenobiology databases. They seemed to be grown rather than built, their dark holes flowing and reshaping themselves in response to changing tactical situations. When Zephyrian energy weapons struck them, the metal hull would ripple and reconfigure, developing new armor configurations that made subsequent attacks less effective. "What about the defending forces?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "I'm detecting maybe 60 Zephyrian ships still operational," Rodriguez replied grimly. "They're clustered around the evacuation zones, but they're taking heavy casualties. Their weapons appear to be energy-based, but the Vorthans are adapting faster than the Zephyrians can modify their targeting systems." Sarah watched as another group of Zephyrian vessels died trying to protect an evacuation convoy. The defending ships were elegant, artistic creations that moved through space with graceful efficiency, but they fought like they had been designed by artists rather than warriors, their formations beautiful but tactically naive. They were clearly a peaceful species that had never needed to develop the kind of aggressive military doctrines that had shaped human warfare for millennia. "Commander, incoming transmission from one of the Zephyrian vessels," the communications officer announced. "They're using the same mathematical translation protocols from the distress signal." The face that appeared on Sarah's main screen was unlike anything she had ever imagined. The being was humanoid in general shape, but clearly adapted for a very different environment. Its skin was a pale blue color that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light, and its large silver eyes reflected an intelligence that was both alien and somehow familiar. Most striking were its features, which seemed designed for a species that had never known violence or aggression. "I am Ambassador Kaya Velthera of the Zephyrian Confederation," the alien said, its melodious voice somehow conveying both desperation and hope despite the translation barriers. "You answered our distress call. We had begun to believe that no one in the galaxy would help us." Sarah felt a strange mixture of emotions as she looked at the alien ambassador. This was humanity's first contact with an intelligent alien species, a moment that should have been celebrated throughout Earth's colonies. Instead, she was meeting the representative of a dying civilization that was placing its hopes for survival in the hands of complete strangers. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," she replied. "We received your transmission and came as quickly as we could. Can you provide us with tactical information about the attacking force?" Kaya's expression shifted to something that might have been confusion. "Terran Defense Force. I am unfamiliar with your species or your world. Are you part of the Galactic Cooperative?" Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "We've never heard of a Galactic Cooperative, Ambassador. This is our first contact with alien life. We knew nothing about galactic politics until we received your distress call." The implications seemed to hit Kaya like a physical blow. "You came here knowing nothing about us or our situation. You traveled across interstellar space to help complete strangers." "That's what we do," Sarah replied simply. "No one should have to face extinction alone." Before Kaya could respond, Alarms began sounding throughout both fleets. Long-range sensors had detected massive movement in the Vorthan armada. Dozens of their adaptive warships were breaking off from the planetary bombardment and moving to intercept the human task force. Commander, Rodriguez called urgently. The enemy fleet is reacting to our presence. I count over 100 vessels moving toward our position. They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes. Sarah studied the approaching Vorthon formation with the eye of a professional predator. The enemy ships moved in perfect geometric patterns, their formations optimized for maximum firepower and mutual support. It was the kind of tactical deployment that a computer might design, mathematically perfect but utterly predictable. All ships. "This is Commander Chen," she announced on the fleet communication channel. "We have hostile vessels approaching. Remember your training and remember why we're here. These people called for help, and we're going to give it to them." The human fleet began to spread out across space, abandoning the tight formations favored by most military forces in favor of something that looked almost random to outside observers. But Sarah knew better. Her ships were deploying in a pattern that had been perfected over millions of years of evolution. The same formation that packs of persistence hunters had used to bring down creatures many times their size. Ambassador, Sarah said, turning back to Kaya's image on her screen, "I recommend you and your people find cover. Things are about to get very dangerous." Kaya stared at the human fleet deployment in confusion. "Commander Chen, with respect, you have 16 ships against over 100. The Vorthans have adaptive technology that makes them nearly invulnerable. 2 conventional weapons. How do you intend to engage them?" Sarah's smile was sharp and predatory. "Ambassador, my species evolved on what we call a death world. We've been apex predators for over 2 million years. 16 ships might not sound like much, but we didn't come here to fight fair." The first Vorthan vessels entered weapons range and immediately opened fire, with energy beams that could slice through the hull of a battleship. But the human ships weren't where the targeting computers expected them to be. They moved through space with an unpredictability that defied mathematical modeling, each vessel following its own path while maintaining perfect coordination with the rest of the pack. The human response was immediate and devastating. Instead of the energy weapons that the Vorthans had adapted to counter, the Terran ships opened fire with kinetic projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. The Vorthan adaptive hulls optimized to absorb and redirect energy proved helpless against simple chunks of matter moving at relativistic velocities. 3 Vorthan ships died in the first exchange, their hulls shattered by impacts that released more energy than nuclear weapons. The surviving enemy vessels immediately began adapting, their hulls reconfiguring to better absorb kinetic impacts. But the humans had anticipated this response. The second wave of human attacks came from an entirely different direction, using weapons that most civilized species would have considered war crimes. Electromagnetic pulse warheads designed to overload cybernetic systems, quantum disruptors that could tear apart the molecular bonds holding matter together, nanotech swarms that could eat through any known material. Kaya watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and terror. The humans fought like nothing she had ever imagined. Where the Zephyrians would have tried to minimize casualties and damage, the humans seemed to take a perverse pleasure in finding new ways to destroy their enemies. Their ships moved through space like predators that had scented blood, coordinating attacks with an efficiency that seemed almost telepathic. The Vorthans, for their part, were experiencing something they had never encountered in 47 conquests. An enemy that could adapt faster than their technology. Every time their ships reconfigured to counter a human weapon system, the humans would switch to something completely different. They fought with a creativity and unpredictability that no computer system could model or counter. Within 30 minutes, the Vorthon attack force had been reduced to scattered debris floating in space. The human fleet regrouped with casualty reports that seemed impossible. 2 ships with minor damage, 0 personnel losses. They had destroyed over 100 enemy vessels without losing a single crew member. Commander Chen Kaya's voice was barely a whisper. "What manner of beings are you?" Sarah's expression softened as she looked at the alien ambassador. "We're the species that evolution created when it needed something that could survive on a world where everything was trying to kill us, Ambassador. We're persistence hunters, pack predators, apex survivors. And we don't abandon people who ask for our help." The main Vorthon fleet was already beginning to withdraw from the system, their cold machine logic recognizing that they had encountered something beyond their ability to counter or understand. For the first time in their collective memory, the Vorthons had met a species more dangerous than themselves. As the immediate threat receded, Sarah found herself looking at the damaged Zephorian cities and thinking about the long road ahead. Humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and there would be consequences. But for now, she was content to know that 40 billion innocent beings would live to see another sunrise because someone had been willing to answer their cry for help. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human protection had begun.